Hey, everybody. It's Megan Holly, and yet another episode of Taking Flight is here. Hopefully, going right into your heart. Hopefully, this episode finds you well and you are doing good. Today, we're talking a little bit about the idea of passion, and it stems from something I heard a while back, and I wish that I could remember kind of the originator of the thought and idea, but it's the idea that sometimes we get caught up, especially in this world and this society, thinking that everything has to feel fun and exciting and just be this kind of quintessential vibe. For instance, our career, our job, things like that. And we kind of get wrapped up in this idea that everything needs to feel just explosive. And so the sentiment that they were talking about was the idea that when people say something like, for me, for instance, people will say, your job is so fun. What you get to do is so fun. And what if we kind of twisted it a little bit and took a little bit of a different mindset shift and thought about, well, maybe what somebody is doing or what they do for a living or whatever we're kind of ideating is fun or whatever adjective you want to add into it. But maybe it's the essence that they bring, the magnetism, the fun that they are as a person. And the statement that, my job is not fun, I am a fun person, was something that kind of stuck with me when I was listening to this, because it really got me thinking about kind of the world that we live in and how we operate within it. And so often I have a lot of nieces and nephews who are in that kind of age range where they're trying to figure out where they're going and who they are, which kind of we all are at any age, really. But you're really in that kind of space in the early 20s, mid 20s, and sometimes I can see kind of the stress of thinking about what really lights me up, what makes me feel passionate, kind of feel a little daunting in a way. And so in this episode, I really wanted to unravel the idea that we all can have for others, for ourselves, of what does produce feeling passionate about something, having fun within our life, our job, our relationships, all of that. And like most things, at least in my beliefs, it starts from within. Because if we are perceiving, right, that something is fun or exciting or, kind of elusive, and we want to kind of tap into that, but we don't perceive that the way that we are operating or our career path is that same way, there's a couple things we would need to take a look at, right? First and foremost, are we coming to just stepping up into it as the fun, magnetic person we want to be? Are we putting too much pressure on what a job should look like, sound like, feel like? Because I'll be the first to say, I really do have a fun job. I love what I do. I love working with people behind the camera. I love coaching. I love being here on the podcast. But it doesn't mean that it's always just fun. It doesn't mean that it's exciting and effortless and all of that. And so I think getting ourselves locked and loaded into that mindset that something just is so when it comes to perspective, especially when it comes to career, because we spend, I don't know, I know there's a statistic out there of like how many hours and all the years of our lives that we're spending, right, doing the thing that is called a job or a career, right? And when we get so sucked up into the idea that it needs to feel a certain way, we're going to lose a lot of that passion that should be. So many of us get into what we do because we're passionate about it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe when we were younger, we always had an excitement or we were interested in whatever field or industry we're in. Maybe it's something we fell upon and became really excited about later in life. But regardless of what brought us here, what can keep us feeling excited about anything in life, and this doesn't just have to go for a job or career, of course, but it's just kind of where I'm staying in the pocket of for the conversation. It expands, right? It expands us. And so if we allow the reminder of, why am I doing this? Like, what does draw me to what I'm doing? If it is just, hey, this is just a means to an end, we all get that. That is a part of life. We've all been in those pockets of our lives or our careers. It is just something that we need to do sometimes. It truly is. We just need to make an income. We need to, right, build that resume. And it doesn't have to be all that serious. It doesn't have to be this world-changing thing that's happening because you have a job or a career. But what we can do, since we do spend so much of our energy, time, all of that doing these things, we should make sure that we are kind of checking in, tapping in with ourselves from time to time. Now, over the course of my career, I have had shifts, right? I started out kind of in early childhood, not kind of, I did start out in early childhood education, and that's where I truly thought I'd be for the rest of my life. But surprise, spoiler alert, clearly that's not the case. And then I moved into another portion, and then now I'm here, right? And so all that to say is, sometimes we don't know the trajectory that we're going to go on in our lives. And that's sometimes, even though it feels like a little bit scary and overwhelming, some in other regard, sometimes it's the exact thing that makes us feel a little bit more excited and willing and able to keep learning and shape-shifting over the time that we spend learning about ourselves, what we're good at, how we operate, who we can help more. And so if we kind of take down the barrier of something should look a certain way, feel a certain way, all of those things that really are what we can have some control over, right? When we get up every morning, we have a choice to say, I'm going to go to this annoying ass job, or I'm going to enjoy what I have in front of me. I'm going to be grateful that it is a means to an end in this moment. And although maybe it's not the most ideal space or spot, or a hardship is happening, we don't have to let that part be just everything that we feel, right? Because if we do that with anything in life, we are only going to feel what we're stewing and kind of stirring in the pot. And so allowing ourselves to find kind of that magnetic feeling again towards something, find a sliver, right? Find a sliver of something that lights us up within whatever we're doing at this moment. And then use that to kind of move us forward to where we want to go. If you're really that miserable in something, right? A job, a relationship, anything in our bodies, the only way to the other side of that is to make some shifts. And so when we talk about the idea that, that is how I want to feel, right? If we look at somebody who go, oh my gosh, their job is so fun, or gosh, they're always laughing in their relationship. They just seem like they have, the happiest, connection with their significant other. But yet we feel devoid of that in our own lives. That's where we need to start questioning ourselves, right? We need to start saying, why am I perceiving this in everybody else, but in myself, I'm going, oh, it's all a struggle bus. None of it feels right. All of that. Because we have the power to make those shifts, and not only make those shifts, but change whatever's happening within it. And obviously this isn't rocket science, you guys. It's really not rocket science, but the actuality of doing it can sometimes feel so much more like, that's just not my reality. This is just who I am and how it's going to be always. I've always had just kind of this rainy cloud over my head. So it's no surprise that I'm just kind of stuck in this job that I don't feel really great in, or I don't feel like I'm making the difference that I want to, or this relationship just feels like it's always going to be a little bit of a battle, right? It doesn't always have to be that way. We can flip the script on it. We can bring back that passion, because passion creates passion. And so whatever we need to do to bring that passion up is what's more important than the actual outcome, at least in my opinion, right? Because if we can produce that passion within us, and maybe it's the passion, for me sometimes it's the passion of not feeling stuck, not feeling heavy, not feeling like this is the only way. So my passion will kind of like come up in and through me, because I am so hell-bent on it not just being the only way that I see it in this moment, right? And then we start to see, hey, I am fun. I can bring that to the table. And even though this is a means to an end right now, or I'm kind of figuring out where I want to go with X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, then you can do what you are able to in an everyday life. Make a choice to wake up and say, hey, I'm going to bring the fun. I'm going to bring the passion. I'm going to bring the curiosity. There's another one, right? The more curious we are, think about little kids. Think about little ones. I have a niece and nephew who are 4 and 5, and they're just so curious. They ask questions. They say why. They say, what is this? About everything. And I feel like we just slow down on doing that. as we age, right? And some people are more curious than others. Some people don't want to ask the wrong question, so they don't do it, right, as often. But what if we did, at least with ourselves, just start asking why? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel burnt out? Where is this overwhelm coming from, right? The who, what, when, where, why, those could serve us really well when we are feeling less than or just ho-hum in any aspect of our lives, right? Especially parts that are all consuming, right? And I mean that by the time that we spend there, the energy that we spend there, the effort that we put into, right? Which are those big kind of ticket items in any of our lives, right? The places and spaces that we live, go, frequent, our career, obviously, our relationships. These things, right, can be just morphed into when we ask better questions to ourselves and then to others. If we're seeing somebody who's like, oh my gosh, their job is so fun, they look like they're always having a blast, ask them questions like, how did you get there? What got you into this? What lights you up about it? What are your hardships too? Because don't forget, it's perspective. When we see somebody and we kind of label them as something, right? Positive, fun, exciting, all the things, that's just our perspective. There's other parts of them. They are multifaceted. You know, I talk about prisms a lot. They're prismatic. There's all different shapes and shifts within them. So ask them the hard questions too. So that you can debunk the idea that, well, that's for them and this is for me. This is the only way I will ever be. I really didn't mean to rhyme there, but it just rolled off the tongue. So, right? How can I implore you, and really all of us, myself included, this is a reminder for myself, that when we're feeling like we're up against something that just feels like, well, this was always just my story. This is how I will always feel about it. And I'm just stuck here, right? Now, I'm not telling you to go quit your job tomorrow or make some big drastic change, but what if you can start making just minor shifts in the way that you show up within it for now to see how it can feel? And what if in a few weeks, because you allowed that time to happen, you start to at least feel a little more like you're meant to just be in this pocket right now? What can you give a little bit more? How can you give differently of yourself? How can you support the people around you, right? What got you into where you are right now? What got you here? We don't ask well, at least I know I don't. I won't speak for you, but we don't ask the question to ourselves of like, how? What feelings brought me to this person, to this field, to this organization? Enough, I don't think, right? When I'm feeling a little cloudy and a little unsure about where I'm spending my energy, it's important for me to kind of come back. And I need to remember to ask myself that question more. So let's do that together. Asking ourselves that question of, why am I here? What helps me produce the best possible outcomes within my life? And how am I able to bring that to the table? Right? Because I think at the end of the day, when we can get a little more clear on that, clear is kind. I say that a lot, but it's really an important thing to kind of stick in our minds. We say it often in our household, clear is kind. Because when we're in muddy waters is exactly why you're going to feel a little grumpily and just not feeling good in where you are or what you're doing, because we're letting things get too muddy and hazy. And so, as we wrap up this episode, the reminder is this, right? When we're creating momentum for ourselves to feel good within whatever it is we are called to do differently, do better, right? We have to make sure that we are being realistic. We have to make sure we are asking the right questions. And we need to wake up every day and remind ourselves that passion produces passion. And so if I'm losing steam, the others around me may be too. And so we are kind of our own barometers of kind of where we are. Don't allow others to affect that. Don't allow situations to affect that, or the feelings that maybe have started to surface for you within a part of your life, a part of your career, a relationship. Don't allow that to be the thing that dictates where you go next, because you have the power. You know that I'm always reminding you about that. You have the power to take back the power. Yeah. And produce more passion within it. And the next thing you know, you're going to be feeling a little more grounded and good in your system and feeling like you can navigate to the next layer, the next level, the next version of whatever it is that you're moving through. So I hope this episode just gives you just a little nudge in the right direction to wake up over the next few days and take the power back. Find your passion. And I would love to hear what it is that you're kind of stewing and stirring and creating for yourself lately. What is it? I want to hear about it. Come jump in the comments. Come hang out on my socials and let me know so I can cheerlead you on and see where this beautiful life is taking you.